Do you ever find yourself not doing something for a while? Not a conscious decision, really. Just it sort of happens, right? And you feel terrible. Again, not consciously. There's just sort of a cloud above your head. And you think to yourself, like, oh, why am I feeling so awful? It takes too long to realize what that thing you've accidentally dropped is. And usually for me, it's watching anime. Like, I'll stop watching for like a week or 2 weeks, or I'll skip an entire season, and for the entire time that I'm not watching anything, I'm miserable. Mostly. It's pretty stupid. But I have once again remembered that watching anime makes me happy, so I watched, no, don't judge me too hard for this. I can explain. I watched the latest episode of the final season of, well, I guess it's the first episode of the final season of My Hero Academia, which is not an anime I'd list in my top, like, 50. Now, if you watch it, like, if you've made it to, like, season 3, then you probably love it. And if you've made it to whatever season we're on now, it's probably one of your favourites, but the sort of community that is sprouted around it is not great and paints a bad image, and the dub being pretty awful most of the time also damages its reputation, and on top of that, a lot of the dialogue is often corny, and they do a lot of stuff that doesn't have any payoff until like 2 or 3 seasons down the road, so it feels like there's a lot of filler, because at the time that's what it is, right? And maybe it's like a sunk cost thing, and that's where I've derived my enjoyment. Like, once you've committed so much time to engaging with something, it's hard not to care when something happens with it. Like, if you don't watch any sports at all, and you watch like a minute of any game, right? You don't know the stakes. You don't know who you're looking at. You don't know, like, you might know the rules of the sport and can tell who's winning and who's losing, and maybe you can spot the skill level of a given player, but there's no weight at all, right? It's weightless. But if you've been watching the entire season and following one team or one player, or more than one team and player, then it matters. And when something you want to happen happens, it's the greatest feeling ever. That's why people yell so loud when their favourite team scores a goal. That's why you see those videos of people cheering in bars, because there you go, right? They're committed and it matters to them. And with these like shonen anime that go on for season after season, it's like the ball game, right? You've been following this team and these players for however long, so everything that happens and everything they accomplish feels so important and so big. And that's why I like My Hero Academia. I would never choose to engage with the culture around it. Again, people who have their My Hero Academia fan pages and stuff I view that as a red flag. Or at the very least a flag of adolescence. But yeah, I don't know. I like the anime, and this like first episode of the final season was very big in the callbacks, I guess. If you've seen it, you'll probably know what I mean. But anyway, I watched that before getting on here because I wanted to watch something, I guess. Oh, I had realised I hadn't watched any anime all week. The last thing I had watched was the final episode of I've forgotten the name again, but it's that anime where the like small girl is sort of in love with this like tall, scary-looking blonde guy, and they go to like rival schools or something. The 12th episode was not the final episode. There was a 13th one, and it was very heartwarming and very cute. And from that, I don't think they need a second season at all. They can if they want, but like I'm satisfied where things ended. Oops. Right. I've managed to whittle down the gap between episodes from 7 days to 6 days. Yay! I was going to record again last night, but as per usual, I got talking to friends, and then it was 4 a.m, and I thought it would be foolish to not try to go to sleep. Or rather, I thought it would be foolish to stay up any later and potentially not go to sleep before 8 a.m, sorry. And that's sort of been the case for most days this week. I went to bed quite early on Sunday night, I think. Or maybe I didn't. Something inside my computer right now is making a frightening noise. It's like the sound of something whirring up. Like, I think one of the hard drives is on its way out. Yeah, that can't be good. Anyway, I went to bed early Sunday night because I had to do my laundry in the morning before work. So I was up before noon on Monday, which was great, and I would have loved to continue that going forward. But I didn't. Now, why didn't I? That's a good question that I am struggling to remember the reason for. So I'm going to check. Let's see. What day would have that been? Okay, that was Saturday. So this is Sunday. And then, no, I haven't put anything in there. this Sunday? No, that's Tuesday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Tuesday, Saturday, no. Oh, I remember what happened. Okay, so Monday night I get home from work and I'm doing something for a bit, I think. No, Monday, Sunday. What was I doing Sunday night? What did I do Sunday night? I think Sunday night I... Bear with me. Wow, that's really distracting. Why does it keep doing that? I don't think it picks up on the mic, but anyway, Sunday night, I think... I keep stopping myself because I realise there's ways I can verify the timeline. Not that it particularly matters how detailed my timeline is. I like to know, right? I like to be sure of what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Wait, no. What? Okay, so I was wrong. Sunday night, I decided, or rather, I messaged my friend because I wanted to play Helldivers. We hadn't played in a bit, and there was some major order on the automaton front. So we decided to play before both of us went to bed. Inexplicably, on the last mission, my internet cut out completely. It was a very strange outage. Usually I can go and connect to the router because even if you're not getting internet from the ISP, you can still connect to your own local network. But I couldn't connect to my router from my computer, so I went to my phone and the Wi-Fi for my phone was flicking on and off. But through that, I was able to check on another computer that's in the basement of the house, wired directly to the router, and that computer had internet. Strange. Then my phone got internet back, and then it lost it a dozen times. The network kept disappearing. Yet seemingly, the computer I had in the basement never lost internet. Through that, I was able to tell that the router was experiencing some issues, but it was it seemed to have fixed itself or something, but my computer was still not getting internet. Even after I ran through diagnostics and restarted the computer and restarted the port, or whatever it's called, I forget. Nothing. I think it took, let's see, I think it genuinely took a full hour for my computer to get its internet back proper. For a while I could connect to only some websites. I had internet, but only YouTube, Twitter and Google would load. I tried opening the anime site I use, I tried opening the SoundCloud, I tried opening whatever other tabs I had left open, and only YouTube, Twitter and Google would load. Steam was down as well. I couldn't load any store pages or my profile or anything like that. It's very strange, very, very strange. Everything came back online eventually, but I'm sort of paranoid that there's going to be more issues like that. Supposedly, there was some sort of DDoS attack on a lot of things this week, but I don't know if the timeline perfectly lines up with when I experienced a personal outage. Regardless, Monday night, so things got more interesting because I woke up early that day. So I get home from work and I'm tired because I woke up early, but I think I had a coffee, though a really, really small one. I had a coffee a bit late in my shift. Just like a small thing to push me through the last 2 or 3 hours. And it decided to kick in full gear after I'd gotten home. And, well, biding my time before it'd be a good time for me to go to bed, I was overcome with a sudden urge. An urge to reorganize my entire Spotify library. Now, up until this point, I've had playlists based just on vibes. A few examples of which, if I check here, yeah. I have fast mood for songs that are have energy to them. I have light mood for songs that you could theoretically fall asleep to. Though there are some that don't. For every one of these playlists, there are some songs that don't quite fit. For example, in light mood, Telescope by Cage the Elephant is in there, which is you could fall asleep to it on a low volume, but it has that bit at the end that gets really loud. But other songs that are in there, like Everything Cavetown's Ever Done, is in here, and a bunch of early Joji songs when he was still making that weird, really melancholic, echoey music. We have grand mood for songs that have a really big sound or a really big finish. There's smooth mood for songs that aren't that aren't quiet, but maybe they're a little slow and sort of I don't know, they're smooth. I have 1 Point Perspective by the Arctic Monkeys in here, and Number One Party Anthem also by the Arctic Monkeys. But there's also Humility by the Gorillaz. Yeah. There's Desolate Mood, which is echoey country type stuff. A number of those the songs in this playlist I've played before. Summer Mood for songs that remind me of summer. Tea for plucky indie rock. Midnight Mood for songs that sound best when it's really dark out. And then my main playlist is just called Highway Mood, which is 80s, not rock from the 80s, but rock that has sounds of the 80s, like The Midnight and Bad Sons, and a lot of the earlier stuff by Honey. This has been my main playlist for the better half of 8 years. Every time I was riding my bike in high school, I'd be listening to this playlist. And then it was my main playlist when I had my driving job. And now every time I'm driving at night, it is just the playlist I listen to. So to and from work or otherwise. But a problem has arisen with all of these, and that's they're too broad. Now there are some in here that are very specific, like I have one that is just bossa nova, like exclusively. But even in my highway mood playlist, there's stuff that would be like considered like just standard rock. There's some stuff that's like full electro. There's retrowave, synthwave, and everything's at like different levels of energy and tempo, and that's like fine, I guess, but I'm a very particular person, so I end up skipping songs a lot of the time because it's not quite what I'm looking for. However, well, I've theorized this like ideal version of a music service that takes into account the level of energy in a song through like volume and BPM and then genre, and then rather than shuffling at random or using some freakish algorithm like Spotify does, that doesn't seem to do a very good job. Instead it picks the song that the current song would flow best into. Now unfortunately no one appreciates my genius, let's say, and nobody has made that kind of streaming service to my knowledge. So instead I'm taking matters into my own hands, and I'm not a programmer, so I'm not going to create my own streaming service, but what I have decided to do is make very categorized playlists with the criteria being genre, time of day I would listen to it, and how fast I would drive the car if it was playing. So for example, some playlists we have here. We have rock day 60 kilometers per hour. We have shoegaze night 60 kilometers per hour. Rock night 100 kilometers per hour, and I did have one that was 140 kilometers per hour, but it only had like 3 songs in it, and I decided if I'll make one of those later. However, what I have done, or rather, while I was doing this, I was selecting random images off of my laptop to have as thumbnails. And I was sort of growing annoyed because the thumbnails weren't really uniform in any meaningful way. And it was sort of hard to discern when they were just random pictures. So I thought to myself, like, what sort of controllable image could I use, like, for the covers for all of these playlists? Like something I can easily manipulate, is sort of uniform, and it's like, looks cool, right? And after going through my folders of reference images for any given thing, I came across a mini disc, and I looked at it and I'm like, those things would come in so many fun colours. Why don't I just go with that? So I thought about it and I'm like, well, Photoshop I don't think would quite do the job. What if I just make like a fully manufacturer accurate mini disc 3D model with hyperrealistic geometry and shaders that I can then manipulate in any way I want, render out an image quickly, and then have an infinite series of covers for my many playlists. So I started doing that on Monday night, and I did that until way too late, like way too late. I think I was doing it until like 5 a.m. or something, 4 or 5, before I even thought about going to bed. I like glanced up from me working on the model to see, and my clock was like 4 a.m. and I'm like, oh, well, I've done it again. Right, so much for going to bed early. So much for fixing my sleep schedule again. Stupid. I don't even remember. I don't even remember what I was doing Tuesday night. Now that I think about it. I got home from work, I ate. I think I went to bed relatively early. Yeah. No. Time to check Discord and figure this out, because I'm going to be frustrated if I can't get my story straight. Tuesday. Okay, so on Tuesday, my grand plan was, well, while I was working, I was overcome with an urge to learn how to play the piano. Like, I was just at work listening to music, maybe, I don't remember. And I thought, I've learned how to play guitar just by fiddling about for a few years, right? And I've picked up a lot from just having the thing in my hands and trying my best to play the songs I like. So why don't I just do the same for piano? So then when I got home from work on Tuesday night, I started looking at the prices of pianos on Amazon, because they have deals going on right now, and on like local music shops websites. And what I came to find was I absolutely should have picked up any of the pianos that I came across inside of the thrift stores those many weeks ago, because pianos, like even electric ones, are bloody expensive. Like above $100 for anything that doesn't look sketchy, and like 200 or more for anything that would have what you actually need. So I, instead of making another giant financial commitment to another instrument, I instead decided to ask my friend who plays the piano if he had any extra little electric pianos lying around. And lo and behold, he did have one. He had a singular electric piano. Right? Now, he was going to bed soon, and I should have been going to bed soon. So we decided the next day what we were going to do is I was going to pick him up, and we were going to go thrift stores, or go to a dozen thrift stores looking for pianos, and then if we don't find any, then I'll just borrow the one, like the extra he had lying around. That was the plan. But I could not fall asleep. I must have got in bed, like, what could it have been? Yeah, I must have got in bed around 2 a.m, which is pretty early for me, right? 2 a.m. plus 8 hours of sleep. That's, say, 10 a.m. wake-up time, right? That's reasonable. Most stores don't even open until 9. Perfect. I did not wake up until 4 p.m. because I just could not sleep. I was too hot, and then I was too cold, and then things were too bright, but there were no lights out, and the sun wasn't up, and things were too noisy, but nothing was making noise. And I've never struggled so much to fall asleep in my whole life. Or maybe I have and I've forgotten, but that feels like the worst one in recent memory. So that threw off my whole day. And I got up and I'm like, oh, come on, right? Like, I can't go shopping now. Most of the thrift stores close around 7, right? And I have to be home for dinner, and I have to get ready, and it's going to take me forever to get out of bed. So I didn't leave my house until 6 something. So I just went to my friend's house, and rather than going shopping, we decided just to play the instruments. I brought my special electric guitar with me, so my friend could try it out, and he handed me the piano, which I do have on my desk right now. It's a bit heavy. This thing was made in the year 1984. So it is a significantly older piece of technology than even my own body, right? So that does pick up on mic. That seems a bit loud though. If I... That's minimum. Yeah. I sort of love this thing. It's so fun. We ended up playing the instruments for, I think, 4 hours or something. And from that I got in a few recordings, though I sort of just left the field recorder, which I had also brought with me, on the table that was between us. I was on the couch with the guitars and this thing, and he was at the upright piano across the room. Much like myself, with all my little guitar recordings where I write little songs, he plays he does little recordings that are more like classical piano pieces, meant to convey emotion wordlessly or paint a picture in your head. And he had some very interesting ones he played for me, as we sort of shared our recent recordings. And yeah, it was a great time. And I decided to, sort of as a first, compile what bits I felt were nice in the from the jam, I guess. I compiled it all into a video I've put on the other YouTube channel. I made a community post about this, but for those of you who don't see community posts, I have another channel named for my SoundCloud, Jackrabbit Melodrama. It's linked on the homepage of this channel, and it's linked in the community post I made. And on there, there's that one song I did months ago. Like, I think we're coming up on I don't even know, like half a year ago maybe. And it has like a little animation or something just on top of the cover art I had made for it. But the other video that's there, that was uploaded today, is a compilation of those piano sessions. Yeah. Some of it I am playing piano myself, but it's like I only play, like, if I'm playing piano, it's the electric one, this thing. I'm now realizing right now it only has a speaker on the left side, like over here. So when you hear it in this recording, you're only going to hear it on the left side. Like if I look at the waveform right now, it's barely making an appearance actually. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to sound. But yeah, there's only a speaker on one side, so it's sort of, it's going to be weighted to like the right ear, which would bother me if I was the one listening. I'm really hoping it doesn't bother any of you. And maybe somehow it's not going to sound like that, but apologies if it does. Anyway, yeah, we recorded some stuff, find it on the other channel. Right, my plan for the rest of the week was to, well, for one, finish that mini disc thing. That was my plan. I got home from recording with my friend and fiddling with the piano, like, switch the piano noise here. Oh wow, that came out loud. It's like the who survived somebody new. That's not, fuck, what's that song? No, I know, since you've awakened her again, she depends on you, she depends on you. Sad Machine, there we go. That's like the Sad Machine riff. Come on. Yeah, you get it. you get the point. Sad Machine, Porter Robinson. After I got home and I fiddled with the piano a lot more, I hopped onto Discord with a few of my friends while I was working on the mini disc, and I came to find that I was unsatisfied with my own work. And sort of came to the conclusion, after many hours of trying to wrangle my own imperfections, that I should probably just restart. And I also realised it would be a lot better if I had a physical reference to work with. So I ordered a mini disc on Amazon and it should arrive tomorrow, hopefully. But as it goes, talking to my friends late into the night, I didn't record and I didn't get to bed until 4 or 5 a.m. and then didn't fall asleep till a while after that. So I wasn't awake, period, until 4 p.m. again. I said 4 p.m. earlier, I meant 4 a.m. Anyway, yeah, I wasn't awake till 4 p.m. And that sort of threw a wrench in my whole plan for today, because today I wanted to deal with the car. But at 7:30, I'd have a haircut appointment, so if I started taking apart the car, I would have to put it back together quite quickly, lest I be late or not show up for my hair appointment, which is the only slot my hairdresser has before she goes on mat leave. And I don't want to go to another hairdresser, because it's like, I like the result I get with my current one, and she's been my hairdresser for an extremely long time. And the one time I tried somebody else, they sort of botched it quite badly, and I had to suffer with that for a semester. So I had to get to this hair appointment, and unfortunately that means tonight I did not deal with the car. Thinking on it now, I haven't really done much of anything with my evening, other than make that video on the other channel. Oh, no, that's what I did. I played Yakuza 3. I forgot I did that. I did that after I got back from the hairdresser. See, I had... What? Oh my god, that's what's happening. Okay, so it's not one of my hard drives on the fritz. It's one of the fans in my computer spinning up and then spinning down. Okay, that's a lot less like cataclysmic of an issue. I just turned it off, it's fine. Anyway, I prepared a list of questions and like photos for my hairdresser, because usually I just ask her to trim it, and she does a pretty good job of that. But I figured if there's anybody I should ask about getting my hair the way I want it, then she'd be the person to ask, as she's the one who has to sort of deal with it. So I prepared pictures of what product I currently use and what I want it to look like, and why I can't get it to always look like that, and so on and so forth. And I'm not kidding, the answer to every one of her questions was, or every question I had, which was like, how do I get it to stay this way? How do I get this part of my hair to do this? How do I get my part to be where I want it to be? How do I get my hair to fluff up like this? The answer to every single question was just blow dry it. Every question, blow dry it. One of the answers was like sea salt spray. Apparently that's something you can put in your hair that's like relatively scentless, but gives it a better hold and texture. But to get it like flowing the right way and get it to poof up the way I want it to, I've got to blow dry it. So I guess I have to learn how to use a blow dryer properly now. That's fun. I don't own one of my own. I should probably buy one. Anyway, that's an issue for later, because now my hair's short again. Not that short, mind you, but like, if I could compare it to something, I'd say like average anime. No. Think of a generic romance anime with like a main character with short hair, like that length, like halfway up the ears sort of thing, or the ears are half hidden. It's about that length, at least on the sides right now. And it'll grow out during the winter, which will be nice. Anyway, didn't get to deal with the car, so now I have to do that tomorrow. But I don't know how much I'm going to like actually deal with it. And I might just have to save like setting up the backup camera for the spring, because presently we're expecting snowfall and I need to change my tyres in preparation for that, as well as clearing out the garage, which is full of things that I was using to work on my car, so we can fit 2 vehicles in the garage to save them from the elements. Presently I've been parking my car under a tree, which has led to leaves getting in sort of the crevices, and then every time I start driving and roll down my windows, a leaf or two just blows into my car and then like into my lap. I had to throw one out the window today. It's a silly thing. On a completely unrelated note, there are some things you know, right? Like, you know them, and when you realize them, they don't surprise you because you know them, but you don't consciously acknowledge the thing, right? In this case, I so rarely, or rather, I don't consciously acknowledge how chained down I am right now. Or at least I haven't consciously acknowledged it in the way I did earlier today. Like, I've spoken on it before, where every week is the same and it's never ending and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, but I consciously acknowledged it by remembering how exactly it felt to not be chained down. Like, I remember what it felt like to not have to worry about my job all of the time, right? Like, I remember when I was unemployed and just sort of living my life frugally, but living regardless, how I didn't have to sparingly, or rather cautiously, spend my days and my time with people because I know I won't have time for what I want to do, right? I'd always have time after any given thing I was doing. I'd have time for everybody, and I was everybody's person because of that. I never missed a party, I never missed a date. And even with my driving job, when I had that, it was such odd hours, but so flexible and easy and fun that I still didn't feel chained down. Some days on my way to work, I'd be like, I don't want to have to be somewhere and have to do something, right? I just want to work on whatever thing I was working on. And then I'd hit the highway and see all the pretty lights, and I'd go, you know what? Forget all that. This is the greatest job ever. And I love this feeling so much. While thinking about that, I also remembered what it felt like before I could drive. And that, I think, is pretty, that feeling, rather the difference between before I could drive and when I could drive was, the feeling was like difficulty in a video game. On easy mode, everything's handed to you, so it's meaningless. Oh, you beat the game on easy mode, where there's no real way for you to lose, right? Versus beating the game on hard mode, where you had to commit time and skill and learning, really proper to reach that end goal. And it's more like you climbed a mountain instead of walking up a hill. And that's biking versus driving. Biking, I had to put my own sweat and energy into getting somewhere, and because of that, getting anywhere really meant something. I think I've spoken about this before, actually, but there's some people who are new here, and I don't usually go through somebody's backlog of videos when I encounter this type of content, so I wouldn't expect anyone to do that unless they've been here pretty early on. Anyway, yeah. Driving is too easy. It's fun. It's so much fun, and it makes so many things more accessible. I can get to the mall in 20 minutes if the traffic is good. Whereas on my bike, the mall was simply out of range. And I've said this before, I've never considered bus as an option. I've never ridden a public transit bus. My brothers have, right? That's how they got around. But for me, it was always, I can only go as far as I can bike. And of course, as I got older, how far I could bike changed and got further away. But it organically, my horizons organically expanded as my own strength and ability did. But driving was this massive jump from oh, you can get anywhere within 15 kilometers of your home in an hour, and any further than that would be ridiculous because it would take too long to get back. And the jump is now, you can get anywhere 100 kilometers from your home within an hour and be back in equal time. You don't have to worry about hills anymore, or pathways, or terrain in any meaningful way. Heck, if you have a whole day, you could go 200 kilometers away. You could drive to a different city in 3 hours if you wanted to. You could leave the city and drive to the next biggest city and if you left in the morning, you could be home before dinner. The range expanded tenfold. And I'm still coming to grips with that. It's warped my perspective of distance and time and everything, really. Part of me wants to go back before I could drive, even though driving is something I enjoy so much. I don't know. It's too much, right? It's funny. Though he was technically wrong, one of my friends said to me, he could drive while I had to bike everywhere. He said to me, man, once you get your license, you will never bike anywhere ever again. And I brushed that off. I'm like, no, I'll still bike. It's good for me, right? I love biking, right? I want to feel the wind in my face. But he was absolutely right. Like anywhere more than like 5 kilometers from my home, I'm not biking to unless I intend to get drunk. Anyway, let's get off this sort of gloomy topic and talk about something I've been eating a lot, which is pumpkin pie. Now, I don't know globally how popular pumpkin pie is. I live in a place that has pumpkin patches, a lot of them. I don't know how many, but there are a lot of them. Enough that when you're in elementary school, you go on a field trip to a pumpkin patch. And that's a pretty consistent experience for everyone I've met. But because of the large amount of pumpkins where I live, pumpkin pie is extremely common around this time of year and very cheap. You can buy a whole pie for $5, which I think is pretty cheap. And I thought it was so cheap on Sunday that I bought a pie while I was at work, and I carried it around with me for 2 hours of my shift. And when I got home, I ate half of the whole pie. Right. But earlier in that week, my dad had also bought a pie. And with things like that, if it's not presented as a dessert at dinner time, then it's sort of just free for all. And if you want the pie, then you can have the pie. So I, of course, had partaken of the pie earlier in the week. I think pumpkin pie is my favourite pie. Second favourite would probably be apple, but I think all pie is extremely good, and I would take a pie over a cake pretty much any day. But yeah, pumpkin pie. I think we're on our third one. I had some earlier, an hour ago. No, more than an hour ago, because this recording has hit an hour. So an hour and a half ago, I had some pumpkin pie. I don't know. Is pumpkin pie common where you all are? Have you had pumpkin pie? One of my friends said that she's heard a lot of people say they don't like pumpkin pie because of the texture, but I think anybody who doesn't like the texture is a fool. It's the same texture as applesauce or, I don't know, a dozen other things. It's not a particularly concerning texture, really. And like, you put whipped cream on the pumpkin pie and it tastes so freaking good. And out of all the pies, it's the least messy. You can cut your piece of the pie and pick it up like a pizza slice. You don't need a plate, unless the crust is particularly crumbly, in which case you should probably have a plate. But if it's not crumbly, you don't even need a plate. You can just eat it. And that's fantastic. It's efficient. Just realised the piano runs on batteries and I forgot to flip the power off. I've been talking this whole time and I haven't touched any of the keys. Just draining the batteries for no reason. On Saturday there's another anime convention, a really small one, but I'm going to try to go before work. Yeah. Because once again my friends are selling things, so I want to say hi and then see what else there is to buy. I don't know what I'm to do with the rest of my night. If I should just go to bed immediately after this, or find some way to make things entertaining. It might benefit me if I go to bed a little late and then properly like set a dozen alarms, like 12 or something, and really get myself up early despite when I go to bed, so I can deal with the car and then go to bed early out of exhaustion on Friday and then wake up early on Saturday. I think that's what I'll do, even though it's sort of foolish. I probably won't end up finishing the mini-disc thing until next week. But again, that thing should be arriving tomorrow, so I can take a look at it. For those who don't know what mini-disc is, actually, firstly, I'm going to preface this with, I was not consciously aware of mini-disc as a format until like the last 3 or 4 years, right? It wasn't around when I was a kid, or rather it was, but not in North America. It never really made its way over here properly. It was semi-present in Europe, but extremely prevalent in Asia, specifically Japan, where it originates from, because it's a Sony invention. See, oh right, preface, I was about to go into the mini-disc info dump. If you had mini-discs when you were a kid, or you remember them, or you just like have experience with them, share that with me, please. And if I say anything that is incorrect, because again, I'm an outsider to the technology, I'm on the outside looking in, and the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So if you're someone on the side of the grass in this case, please share what you know and correct me if I say anything that's like too rose-tinted. Anyway, mini-disc arose in the late 90s and early 2000s, because the early 80s had cassettes, and then there were the compact disc CD came out, and I think at the time CDs were pretty low capacity and rather large, if I'm correct. Either way, after CDs, they wanted to make things smaller, and CDs were being made everywhere, right? But I'm forgetting how this goes. Anyway, they wanted something smaller, right? So in the West, the company Philips developed higher capacity, better cassettes, and they could fit into your car radios, which often had cassette players. They could fit into your already existing tape decks, but they had better audio, and I forget if they required rewinding or not, but they were better cassettes, higher capacity, better. But on the other side of the pond, or the world, I guess, Sony came up with the mini disc, which was sort of like a floppy disk, where it's a high capacity storage disk in a plastic shell. And the mini disc really took off in Japan, and again was sort of adopted in Europe. They looked cool, for one, often having like transparent shells and were coloured and whatnot. They were small, they like fit in the palm of your hand. So you could carry a lot of them around with you. They were pretty hard to scratch, with the CD being in a case and all. And the most interesting thing that sort of came out for it was they sold blanks, right? Now this is prior to the like really big takeoff of digital music. So they sold blank mini discs that you could, like, they had a limited number of minutes that you could store on them. But you could take them to a music store and slot a blank into a kiosk where you could buy individual songs and load them onto the mini disc. So a song that was new would cost like $1 or $2, and then cheaper songs, well, like older songs, would be cheaper and would cost only a few cents, and you could create little playlists or load a whole album or whatever you want, load them onto a mini disc, and then have your own little mixtape that you bought that is legal. And it was that easy to make. Just slot it in, purchase, slot out, and it's playable. And that's such an interesting tech, right? I wish we had those things. That just seems so cool. Apparently, even when the iPod took off, people were still using it because it was a better deal than iTunes at the time. Though again, I don't know how to verify that. I wasn't there. What you're getting from me is a third-hand account. But yeah, the high-capacity cassette was killed off by digital media, and CDs became more widely adopted as they got higher in capacity without changing form factor. Yeah. And of course, yeah, iPod took off globally, and then the iPhone and that. And now we're to streaming services, but I don't know. They just look cool. And in a lot of anime, whenever there's like cool high-tech technology, whenever there's a lot of like mini disc inspired stuff of them slotting like a CD that looks like it's in a block of acrylic into like a slot in a big computer. I don't know, it's all very cool. Very large aside, what I'm hearing right now far away is a dog barking or something. But something, at least in my region, something you hear like all throughout the season is the sound of migrating geese. So Canadian geese migrate down south for the entire winter, and I can't ever remember hearing them come back in the spring, but you always hear them leave in the fall, because it's just like honk, 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 and there's like hundreds of them moving in a group across the sky. So you just hear honking for like 5 minutes intermittently every day. And it's quite the thing to see. As a child, you don't find it that annoying, and by the time you get to being an adult, you get used to it. But I think if someone like moved here from somewhere where there aren't migratory birds that make a lot of noise like that, they might get annoyed. I don't know. I'm not an expert on migratory birds, I'm afraid. I just know that the Canadian geese get quite loud. Yeah, I don't know what to do right now. Or rather, I don't know what to talk about. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do after this and whether I should end this recording right now. But I just don't know. I'm going to check my Spotify again. Is there anything new I can recommend? No, not really. Shame. That's fine. That's just fine. Madeon is up, like, making some big moves. He had a live show for his new album in Red Rocks, which I think is a famous, like, venue. But I've never been, right? And I couldn't go this time. I hope he does tour to somewhere nearby so I can go. You know what I did do? Just the other day, I forget what day of the week it was. It might have been Tuesday, or maybe it was Wednesday. Could have been yesterday, could have been the day before. Could have been any day, really. The Midnight announced that they're doing another North America tour. And this time I'm not going to miss it. I've bought tickets to the Vancouver show. I'm like semi-doxing where I'm going to be on a specific date. Now, the show is not until the spring. It's not until May, I think. Which would be an absolutely lovely time to be in Vancouver. But Vancouver is ages away from where I am. Ages away. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to get there right now. But I had to buy the tickets because I really wanted to go to the Geese and Racing Mount Pleasant show in Vancouver in, I think it's like a week or two from now. But the ticket prices for that have jumped up into like the higher hundreds. It's getting closer to 1,000 than it is to 100. In fact, let's check right now. Yes, keyboard, I know. Yeah. Right now it's at $687. Because of course people have bought up all of the tickets and are now just reselling them, which is such a scummy thing to do. I wish people weren't evil like that. Like, come on, really? Anyway. So, couldn't go to that show because ticket prices jumped up too high. They were at 300 when I was considering it, and then a week later they were at 500, so I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. Right? I wanted to go with a friend, but not only would I have to convince myself to spend $600 on tickets, I'd have to convince a friend to spend $600 on tickets for a band he doesn't like yet. So I'm not doing that. The Midnight, though, I'm going to try to go to that one. I got like the insurance on it, so if I can't make it somehow I can get most of my money back. But yeah, I'm hella high water. I'm getting there. I think, like, even if you went through every video that I've done on here and gathered up as much information as you could on my person, like profiling me and whatnot, I think you still wouldn't be able to find me in a crowd. At the very least, you wouldn't be able to find me in a crowd of concert goers, I think. But even in public, probably not. Why's my voice getting all grumbly? What's that about? Okay. That's probably a sign I should stop recording if my voice is getting, like, strained. But I'm not done talking. Anyway, yeah, The Midnight live. They're touring all over the United States. I think they have a show in Toronto as well, as most bands seem to do. I don't know why anybody would ever go to Toronto. It's a terrible place to try to get around. Like, driving is awful, and public transport is even worse. I watched a video on it was called How Not to Build a Train Line, and it's about a like public works project in Toronto that's been ongoing for like 20 years or something, maybe more, and that it's just to build a train line and, well, an LRT line, and it's still not done, and it's like still years off of completion, and it's cost like, it might be up to $1 billion. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much it cost, but it's some ludicrous amount. And like, Madrid built, for the 1 kilometer of train line they have built, for the amount of money they've spent, Madrid built 10 kilometers for half the money. So that's fun. Thanks, Toronto. Apparently Toronto is a miserable place to drive in. A hockey team had pulled in for like NHL finals or something, and they had to walk like a dozen blocks across the city to the arena to get to their game because cars couldn't get there in time. The traffic was so bad, and public transport, of course, couldn't get them there either. a pretty miserable place to be, I've heard. Anyway, I don't know why every band is so... Well, the answer is because there's a huge population there, but I really wish bands would come to where I'm at. Like, closer to me, please. Anyway. What am I talking about? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I swear I had another thought to share, but I've once again failed to write these things down as they come to my head. So, I don't. Has work continued on the background this week? No, I've been too distracted by my project with the mini disc. So there's that. My bad. I did something very stupid on Friday. I drank the entire bottle of soju and played VR chat the entire night, quite early into the morning. Yeah, that was a really bad idea. However, I had a great time. Met some very interesting people and learned some very interesting things. Most of the time, or rather the people I decided to stick with for the majority of the evening, spent a lot of the time talking about the show Hannibal, with Mads Mikkelsen, or Mads Mikkelsen? You know who I'm talking about. I haven't seen the show, but apparently it's very yaoi coded. Such is, I suppose. Anyway, drinking soju on a night I have work the next day was a bad idea because I felt quite like at work the entire day. Like no more than a bad sleep would have done me in, but it was a dangerous game to play, and I don't plan on doing it again. I haven't drunk any alcohol since that point, but yeah. I'm not an alcoholic, for those wondering. I have it on occasion, and that occasion is me committing an evening to VR chat. Yeah. And that's only half the time as well. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you for listening, if you still are. If you fell asleep to this, congratulations. You'd only be hearing this if you fell asleep halfway through, or if you fell asleep once and then decided to listen through again. And thank you for that. If you didn't fall asleep, the video I fell asleep to last night, which was a pretty good sleep actually. Let me find the video. Video I fell asleep to is An Endless Labyrinth, How Big is Aperture Science? It's a video about Portal, the video game. So if you have interest in Portal, the video game, that video might help you fall asleep, though it's only 23 minutes. And if an hour and 25 minutes of just senseless talking isn't making you fall asleep, then perhaps you need a change in your environment before you try again. Flip over your pillow, fluff it up maybe lose a few layers or add a few if you're cold. Unplug anything that's emitting extra light. Maybe put on a sleep mask if you have one. I find that can help. Anyway, if you're listening to this while you're waking up, I hope you have a good day. Tomorrow's going to be fine, probably. For both of us. Probably. Sometimes I think about how the world is being destroyed by everyone, right? Everyone in a position of power is seemingly doing their damnedest to destroy the world as fast as they can. But even with all that, I think at the end of the day, so long as not everybody wants the world to be destroyed, at least a part of the world will always continue, right? The world will never end because I don't think there's anybody who wants it to end. Things might get worse, things might get hotter, things might get colder, but things aren't going to end someday, like one day, and not in our lifetimes. I'm saying some very definitive statements for things I don't have any control over, but I hope you get my sentiment. There's no point in existential dread. There's only point in existing. Existing is the point. So have fun with it, I guess. Anyway, that's it. Bye-bye. Good night.